Her daughter lost her leg in a stagecoach attack, and the horse she loved more than anything turned wild, so wild it wouldn't even let her near. Desperate, her mother took a chance and headed deep into the backcountry to find a cowboy folks said could gentle even the most broken horses. Welcome to Weathered Stories. Today, I want to tell you about Martha Lawson, a mother who wouldn't give up no matter how much she'd already lost. About a young girl who had to learn to walk all over again after losing her leg. And about a quiet, solitary cowboy who'd lost more than he ever said, but still did everything he could just to help them heal. Can this cowboy help bring a wild horse and a hurting girl back to each other? And maybe, can two hearts that have known too much loneliness find a reason to open up again? If you're ready for a story about how love, grit, and grace can beat back fear and pain, hit that like button, and let's begin. The road stretched through dry, empty hills. The stagecoach wheels creaked with every turn, and the sun was starting to drop behind the ridge line. Inside sat Martha Lawson, a woman in her mid-30s. Strong, tired, holding herself together. Beside her, 12-year-old Emmy slept, curled up against her side. At their feet, a basket of food and an old saddlebag. Behind the coach, tied tight to the trailer, rode their horse, an ash-gray Mustang named Thunder. Martha gently pulled the blanket higher on her daughter's shoulders. She didn't complain, but you could see the wear in every movement. They'd been traveling for 3 days, switching coaches, heading somewhere new, hoping what was ahead might be better than what they left behind. Then, the coach lurched. The driver yelled, and a second later, the first gunshot rang out. The horses spooked. Martha grabbed Emmy and pulled her close. Through the window, a rider flashed by, face covered with a black bandana. Then another. One of them jumped right onto the step outside the door. "Money," he shouted, shoving a gun at the glass. "All of it." The driver tried to shout something back, but was shot before he could finish. The coach swayed hard. Horses bucked and screamed. Thunder broke free of the trailer with a wild cry and bolted into the dust. Martha fumbled for her father's old Colt in the saddlebag. Her hands were shaking, but she fired. One of the men fell. The next shot missed. The last bandit fired back. The bullet missed, but the coach tilted again, hard, and flipped. Martha and Emmy were thrown into the dirt. Cut up and bruised, Martha scrambled to her feet and ran to her daughter. Emmy was lying on her side, unconscious. Her leg twisted at a wrong, unnatural angle. Martha touched her daughter's face with trembling hands. "Emmy, baby, please." Everything was quiet now. The bandits were gone. Thunder too. The coach lay on its side, smoke curling from the wreck. The horses had run off. The driver was dead. Martha sat in the dust, holding her daughter in her arms, not knowing where to go or what to do next. She wrapped Emmy in her cloak, stood up, and started walking. No direction, no plan. Just walked. Hours passed, then a rider appeared on the trail. A lone man heading in from the next town. He saw a bloodied child in a woman's arms. Didn't ask questions. Just helped her into the saddle and rode hard back the way he came. By sundown, they reached a small hospital. Low building. Peeling paint. No signs. They didn't ask much. Emmy was rushed straight into surgery. Martha was left in the hallway to wait. The place was quiet. Wooden floors, narrow windows, the smell of iodine. Now and then, the creak of a cart or the soft steps of a nurse. Martha sat with her hat in both hands, trying not to show how scared she was. But her face gave her away. Then the door opened. A doctor stepped out. Gray mustache, glasses, and a look like someone who said too many bad things to too many people. "Miss Lawson." He didn't look her in the eye. "We did everything we could, but the injury was too severe. The infection had already set in." He let the words hang. Martha didn't speak. She just raised her head, slow. "We had to amputate. Left leg, above the knee." She nodded. Just nodded. Like he'd said something about rain in the forecast. Only her lips shook. In the room, Emmy lay still, turned toward the wall. Martha sat beside her, laid a hand on her daughter's arm. No movement. No words. A day passed. Then another. Emmy didn't speak. Didn't eat. Didn't look at anyone. Not even her mother. One nurse tried to talk to her. Got nothing. Then word came through a worker who'd heard from another. The Mustang had been found. Thunder. He'd somehow made his way back to where the stagecoach crashed. Just showed up. They brought him in, but he wouldn't let anyone near. He kicked. He bit. Slammed the stall walls with his hoofs. The vet set it straight. Horse like that? Won't come back from it. Best to put him down. Martha stood outside the stall and watched him. Chest heaving. Ears pinned. Fighting anything that came close. He was like her daughter. Wounded, wild, locked up tight. She clenched her fists. She wasn't giving up on Emmy. Or on Thunder. Not like this. Not now. The next morning, Martha walked into the town supply store. She came for bandages and maybe something Emmy still wouldn't eat. Behind the counter stood an old man with a wrap on his wrist, and next to him, a cowboy in a weather-beaten hat, chewing on a piece of straw, quietly eyeing a rack of saddles. The old man gave Martha a slow nod. Your girl? She's the one from the coach, ain't she? Heard it got bad. Martha gave a small nod. She wasn't in the mood for sympathy. The cowboy spoke up, voice calm. That gray Mustang hers. White mark on the forehead. She's his, Martha answered low. He won't let anyone near. The cowboy spit out the straw. There's a man out in Montana. Holloway. Sam Holloway. Used to be a rider till he busted his back. Lives out there alone now. Folks say he's got away with horses. Any horse. Doesn't talk much, but if you ask him straight, he might help. Martha looked at him, really looked, for the first time. Does he charge? Maybe. Maybe not. Mostly just does what needs doing. That night, Martha sat at Emmy's bedside with a map spread across her lap. Montana was far. The road would be long. Emmy hadn't spoken. Thunder still raged in his stall. Martha folded the map, stood up. Her mind was made up. Sam Holloway's ranch sat quiet and alone out in the hills. No sign, no fence. Just a leaning barn, a weathered house, and a wide, open pasture. The air smelled like hay and dust. Martha held the reins of the wagon. Emmy sat beside her, pale, silent, eyes distant. Thunder followed behind, tied to the back, still jittery but not fighting. Twice Martha pulled over, unsure if they were even headed the right way. But then she saw it, the house, and a man standing by the hitch rail. Sam was tall, hair silver under his hat, face tanned and serious. No gun on his hip, no smile on his lips. He didn't walk over. Not right away. First, he looked at the horse. Then at Emmy. Then at Martha. You looking for someone? He asked. Not rude, just straight. They said you could help, Martha replied. The horse, he changed. After the ambush. And the girl, she's my daughter. Sam nodded once and stepped toward Thunder. The Mustang jerked back. Sam didn't move, just stood still. Watched the animal with calm, steady eyes. Then he turned to Martha. The horse live, he said. But she's the one we need to worry about. If she doesn't break herself first. He nodded toward the stallion. The girl's tougher. Or harder, maybe. Either way, if you want to stay, I've got a place. No promises. There's work to be done. It's simple living. We're not looking for easy, Martha said softly. Sam gave a small nod. All right then. I'll start with the horse. The girl, let her watch, if she wants. That's enough for now. They kept Thunder in a big wooden pen behind the barn. Sam didn't rush anything. He came by morning, noon, and evening. No whip, no treats. Just stood nearby, a few feet off. Thunder shifted on his hooves, ears back, tense. But Sam didn't press. He waited, quiet and patient. Martha and Emmy stayed in a small room next to the kitchen. An old bed, a basin, a stove. It was enough. Emmy barely left the room. Just sat by the window, staring out toward the corral. By the third day, Sam noticed her gaze lingered longer. She wasn't just looking. She was watching. You want to help? He asked one day, voice even. Emmy didn't answer. Sam didn't push. But the next morning, he placed a chair closer to the fence, under the shade of a tree. On the fifth day, she came out. Slowly. On crutches. Step, pause. Step. Martha watched from the porch, hands clenched with worry. Sam said nothing. Didn't look her way. Just kept standing near the horse. Emmy sat on the chair. The three of them stayed like that, man, girl, and Mustang. Not speaking. Just breathing the same air. And in that silence, more was said than words ever could. Sam glanced at Emmy from the corner of his eye. He saw her hands grip tight, her lips tremble, her eyes fixed on every twitch of the horse's body. He knew that kind of pain. The kind you hold inside because there's no one else to carry it. And because letting go feels worse than holding on. The night settled in quiet. The stars were clear, sharper than city skies ever allowed. Out by the fire, not far from the house, Sam tossed drywood onto the flames. It crackled and popped, casting shadows across his face and the brim of his hat. Martha sat across from him, wrapped in a blanket, a cup of hot tea in her hands. "He died 8 years ago," she said, her voice low. "My husband. Worked a river crossing. Wagon went under. No one got to him in time." Sam didn't answer. Just looked into the fire. Not with pity or curiosity, just presence. Since then it's been just me. The house, the job, raising her. Sometimes I think I forgot what it feels like, having someone simply be there. Just there. Silence stretched. Sam poked at the fire, turned a log. "Not all of us were lucky enough to end up with someone," he said softly, almost to himself. Then he fell quiet again. Martha nodded. That was all. In that firelight, in the quiet between them, there was more understanding than in 100 conversations. The next morning, Sam walked out to the corral like he always did. Emmy was already there, sitting in the shade under the tree, blanket in her lap. She watched in silence as he opened the gate and stepped inside. Thunder snorted, but didn't panic. Just watched, guarded. Sam lowered his head and slowly raised his hand. He didn't touch the horse, just held his hand up, a level, still as stone. His voice, when he spoke, was barely a whisper. He thinks no one's gonna understand him anymore. That if he lets anyone close, it's just gonna hurt again. So he makes it easier, to bite, to lash out, to scare folks off. Emmy lowered her eyes. Sam kept going. But he still wants someone near. Deep down, he does. He just needs time. And someone who won't walk away. He stepped out of the pen and walked toward her. "You don't have to do anything. Just be here. He'll know." Emmy looked up at him briefly and gave the smallest nod, then turned her eyes back to the horse. Sam said nothing more. Just walked away. From that day on, Emmy came out every evening. She didn't ask. She didn't speak. She just sat. And Thunder, he started breathing a little softer. It was a warm day. The tall grass behind the ranch swayed in the breeze, and somewhere in the distance, you could hear the river. Sam walked up to the house and tapped gently on the doorframe. "River's down that trail. Quiet out there. You feel like walking." Emmy was at the window, like always. But this time, she didn't look away so quickly. After a pause, she stood, took her crutches, and nodded. They walked slowly. Sam didn't push her, but he didn't coddle either. Sometimes he steadied her when the trail dipped, but mostly he just walked alongside her. Emmy breathed heavy, sweated, but never stopped. "Hurts?" he asked, not looking at her. "Yeah," she said. "Means you're alive," he replied simply. Down by the river, they sat on a fallen log. The water ran smooth, no promises, no meanings. Just water, flowing. Emmy stared at it for a while, then said softly, "I used to ride Thunder bareback. Just me and him. I felt free." Sam didn't answer. He knew better than to interrupt when someone finally starts to speak. "Now it's like I'm not even me anymore." He turned to her. "You're still here. You just gotta learn a new way of being you. It takes time, but it's possible." Up on the hill, Martha stood, a blanket in her hands. She'd meant to bring it down, but stopped halfway. She stayed right where she was, watching her daughter, limping, quiet, but moving forward, beside a cowboy who didn't speak much, but somehow said everything that mattered. And for the first time in a long while, Martha's chest felt just a little lighter. It had been drizzling since morning. No work outside, so Emmy wandered the house on her crutches. The place was simple, almost bare, rough wooden walls, shelves lined with tools, faded books. On one shelf sat a small wooden picture frame. A young woman, smiling, wearing a plain dress, standing beside a younger Sam in a hat, his arm resting gently on her shoulder. Emmy stared at the photo for a long time, unsure if she should pick it up. Sam entered quietly. "You found her," he said, calm as ever. He stepped up beside her, didn't look at the picture. "She passed," he added. Just that. No pain in his voice, no drama. Just fact. The kind of truth spoken by someone who'd carried it long enough to stop flinching. Emmy nodded once. That was all. The day started like most others. Sam walked out to the back pasture. Emmy followed. No one had to ask her anymore. She settled into the chair near the pen, pulled a blanket over her lap, and waited. But this time, Sam brought more than a rope. He had a saddle in his hands. Emmy stiffened, but stayed quiet. Thunder stood calm, though his eyes showed he was still wary. Sam approached slow, hand out. The horse stepped back, but didn't bolt. Sam didn't rush. Minutes passed. Then he gently, smoothly, set the saddle on the stallion's back. Thunder tensed, but didn't explode like before. "See," Sam said, his voice low, eyes still on the horse. He didn't forget. He's just scared of hurting again. Emmy didn't say a word, but she understood. He wasn't just talking about the horse. Later that day, Sam was out by the fence, fixing a busted board. Emmy came up, holding a mug of water. "You fix everything?" she asked, breaking the silence without being asked. Sam looked at her, a little surprised. "Most things. People not so much." She looked down, shy. "Well, you're doing all right." "With me?" He didn't answer, but there was the hint of a smile at the edge of his mouth. From the kitchen window, Martha saw it all. Her daughter, smiling, talking, standing next to someone who didn't pity her, didn't push her, just saw her, as she was. And something warm stirred in Martha's chest. Not grief. Something closer to peace. After Emmy went to bed, Martha stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. Sam stood near an old record player, gently adjusting the needle. The vinyl cracked, then played a soft, slow tune. A little sad, but warm. Martha walked over, curious. Sam turned, didn't say a word, and held out his hand. She didn't ask why. She just placed hers in his. They moved with the rhythm, slow, slightly awkward, but real. Her hand was warm and worn. His, rough, steady, careful. They danced in silence. Not like two people chasing romance, but like two souls who hadn't felt the presence of another in far too long. Through the window, a soft beam of light spilled onto the wooden floor. The record crackled, but kept playing. And in that playing, quiet dance, clumsy, warm, true, there was more emotion than any words could carry. The morning started like any other. Sam and Emmy walked out to the corral. Thunder paced calmly along the fence. Emmy looked steadier now, no blanket, just the morning sun on her face. Sam nodded toward the slope below the pasture. "Let's try down there. Grass is softer." Emmy gave a small nod. Each step was hard, but she pushed through. On the porch, Martha watched, barely breathing. Then it happened. On the slope, one crutch slipped. Emmy fell, not hard, into the grass, but she curled up, silent. Like the pain had gone deeper than the skin. Sam reached her quickly, held out his hand. She didn't take it. Instead, she turned her face away and cried quiet, no sound, just trembling shoulders and clenched lips. "It's all right," he said softly. "This happens." She didn't answer, just stood on her own and went back to the house. No words. Didn't look back. That evening, she stayed in her room. Didn't even come to the window. Sam stood by the corral, staring at the empty chair under the tree. Thunder walked up and gave a quiet snort. Sam didn't react. "Maybe I was wrong," he muttered. Behind him, Martha stepped out of the dark, a mug in her hands. "No," she said gently. "You weren't." He looked at her, doubtful. "I thought it'd be better than this." "You've done more than anyone has since her daddy died," Martha said. She talks again. She smiles. She walks. Falling. That's part of it too. Sam didn't respond right away. "What if I just make it worse?" Martha shook her head. "You're not her savior, but you're here. And for her, that means everything. Don't walk away from that." The sun climbed slow, painting the hills in gold. The air was cool, soft. Everything was still, the morning fog, the hum of wind, the creak of the corral gate. Thunder chewed hay near the fence. The saddle hung on the rail, ready. Sam walked up to the porch and tapped lightly on the doorframe. "Emmy, let's go." She appeared a minute later. No crutches, just a cane. Her steps were slow but even. Martha stood in the doorway, saying nothing, just watching. At the corral, Sam turned to her. "He's waiting. Today you choose fear or the rest of your life." Emmy froze. "What if I fall?" "I'll be right here," he said simply. She stood still for a long moment, staring at Thunder. Then she reached out. The Mustang didn't back away. His eyes were calm. She ran her hand down his neck, then grabbed the saddle horn. Sam steadied her, but didn't lift her. Emmy pulled herself up, using the stirrup and her cane. And then she was sitting. Silence. Only the sound of breathing. And her own heartbeat, loud in her ears. She gripped the saddle tight, tears filling her eyes. "I'm on him," she whispered. Sam nodded. "You're back. Just like before." She let out a small sob, not from pain, but from feeling alive again. On the porch, Martha clutched a handkerchief, tears rolling freely down her face. She didn't wipe them, just watched her daughter, strong, unbroken, on her horse. Thunder took a step forward. Emmy held on. A little shaky, but she didn't fall. Sam walked beside them, not touching the reins. She turned her head slightly. "Thank you," she said, barely louder than a breath, "for giving it all back." Sam swallowed hard. "You gave it to yourself," he said. "I'm just here." The evening was especially still. The porch smelled of dust and old firewood. Inside, Emmy was fast asleep, worn out, but smiling in her sleep. Sam and Martha sat quietly outside, staring into the dark, where fireflies blinked like distant stars. Sam held a cup of cold tea, turning it slowly in his hands. He hadn't spoken in a while. Then, without looking her way, he said, "I'm no good with words. Never have been." Martha glanced at him, calm, waiting. He continued, softer this time. "But if you stayed, it'd feel right. Not 'cause it makes sense. Just 'cause everything finally fits." She didn't answer right away. Just looked out into the night, then back at him, and nodded, slow, but certain. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but something warm and full. They didn't say anything else. They didn't need to. A few weeks passed. The sun felt brighter, the air softer, like even the sky knew something had shifted. Out on the open pasture, Emmy rode Thunder with ease. Her back straight, her balance steady. Her leg, or what was left of it, was no longer something holding her back. She handled the horse like she always had. Sometimes she even laughed out loud, the kind of laugh Martha hadn't heard in years. Sam stood at the fence, wiping his hands with a cloth. Martha came out of the house with a basket of tomatoes. He took part of it from her without a word. They walked side by side like they'd always done it this way. She gathered boxes. He carried the water bucket. Sometimes they talked with a glance. Other times, they said nothing at all. But that quiet, simple, easy only exists between people who've learned to trust each other. That night, 3 plates sat on the porch table. Emmy ate with a full appetite, chatting about how Thunder had walked up to her on his own, like he knew she wasn't the same girl anymore. Martha smiled. Sam poured the tea. "I'll help you with the lean-to tomorrow," Martha said to Sam. "And I'll help both of you," Emmy added proudly. Sam nodded. And in his eyes, for the first time in years, was that look, like he finally knew what it meant to belong again. They ate quietly. No big talk. No grand plans. Just a simple dinner. But in that silence, something lived. Something real. A family, not born from ease, but from choice. From pain, weathered together. And from the quiet decision to stay. If this story touched you, if you believe that pain, loss, and loneliness can still lead to something new, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time, here on Weathered Stories.